Godwin 972 proposes the Bombshell Koopa Rally. You do 23 laps around Koopa Troopa Beach, with the start-finish line being the checkpoint. At the end of each lap, the player currently in last place gets eliminated and explodes.
So here's the thing.
I've already talked about in the last episode how I love the amount of chaos Koopa Troopa Beach can provide in a 5-lap set, while also mentioning how more than the intended circuits around a track can come off as repetitive. Yet here you have this rally idea, even though I can't realistically call it a rally per se, that accelerates the level of chaos of Koopa Troopa Beach, while also seeming to come off as repetitive.
Screw it. Welcome to the S tier, Godwin. Welcome to the second episode of the viewer-submitted Knockout Tour. If you haven't seen the first episode, make sure you check that out, but as a basic rundown, I'll be going over a selection of custom rallies you all submitted one by one, detailing what I think of the rally, highlighting any issues I have with it, and then ranking them on a simple tier list ranging from S to F. I'm also going to be doing a clean wipe of the tier list every episode, just to make things simpler, but I do plan on making a full tier list with every episode's rankings in the future. Now do note again that all of these rankings are my personal opinion, and not everyone is guaranteed to appear in this episode, as I now have over 300 rally submissions. Speaking of that, if you want to add your rally to that ever-growing list, make sure you comment it down below. Same rules apply as last episode, no more than 2 rallies per person. And also, don't feel like you need to come up with a unique rally name, as I will be using duplicate rally names over the course of the series. Now with all that covered, let's go over a new selection of your custom Knockout Tour rallies.
We'll start this episode by covering Pato Pesto 13's Ice Cream Rally. Starting from Crown City, you travel to Koopa Troopa Beach, Faraway Oasis, Salty Salty Speedway, and Wario Shipyard before terminating at Sky High Sundae. Now, in your rally description, you mentioned that the checkpoint for Salty Salty Speedway would not be at the actual track. Rather, from Faraway Oasis, you'd make your way to the highway and cross the checkpoint at a green bridge, which I'm gonna assume is this small bridge on the elevated pipe highway. You then take a side path past the red Yoshis to head to Wario Shipyard, where the checkpoint is at the Glacier Crossing. Now, while I don't hate this variation idea, it also is not the most ideal diversion. For one, having a checkpoint on a highway with no real shortcuts present can make it more difficult for everyone involved. The best way to describe this is if you don't like the Peach Stadium checkpoints in the base game Knockout Tours, you probably won't like the checkpoint being here. Also, I'm gonna assume when describing this side path, you meant the one before the red Yoshis, as the one after takes you towards DK Pass, not Wario Shipyard. But this leads into my second issue, which involves going from the north of Salty Salty Speedway to the Glacier Crossing. Unless you like the final hairpin turn of Peach Beach's third lap, or the recent adjustments they've made to the Koopa Troopa Beach intermissions, sharp turns in water are not fun. And unfortunately, this route encourages such a turn to get to this Wario Shipyard checkpoint. While I can see ways to make this turn feel less sharp, that would require going into territory that may not be available to necessarily race on. So while I don't hate this rally per se, it definitely has some issues to address in my eyes, so I'm sadly going to put it in the B tier to start off this episode. Next up is None of Ya Business 8919's Magma Rally, which I'll dub the Lava Bubble Rally since it makes sense. Starting from Acorn Heights, you travel to Boost Cinema, Mario Circuit, Toad's Factory, and Dry Bones Burnout before ending the rally at Bowser's Castle. Now this is a very solid rally route all around, especially with using some less used tracks toward the north. But sadly, the issues I have with it all revolve around Toad's Factory. In your description, you theorize turning left at the start-finish line to head to the side entrance ramps, then traveling up the ramp to Bowser's Castle to then cross onto the other ramp to access the normal connector track route to Dry Bones Burnout. While this idea doesn't seem terrible on paper, it's not ideal in practice, as the turn required here is pretty sharp. Now, to be fair, some of you mentioned in the comments of the last episode that across the entire game, you'll find these corner widgets inserted in certain routes that guide you on the right path through sharp turns. And while I can visualize one of those widgets being inserted to get you onto the ramp, unless someone proves me wrong, I don't think there's any widgets for a turn of this angle and of this width in the game. Plus, going the normal route to Drybone's Burnout has you going upstream on a waterfall to reach the Fishbone Hot Springs. And while only for a short time, you're still traveling against the water current, which might be frowned upon. However, there is a way to take down 2 birds with 1 stone, and it's simply by not taking the ramps, and instead going straight on the route from Toad's factory to Bowser's Castle. Except you take the east exit out of Big Donut to head to the Fishbone's Hot Springs, thus reuniting with the normal route and avoiding these issues altogether. Other than the issues at Toad's factory though, this rally is overall pretty solid, and I can definitely see its potential. As for its current layout and description, I think this rally is best suited in A tier right now. Close to perfect, but not quite there. Next up is Musanami's Boo Rally, which I'm dubbing here the Poison Rally. Starting from Whistle Stop Summit, you'll travel to Mario Bros. Circuit, Wario Stadium, Toad's Factory, and Drybone's Burnout before terminating at Boo's Cinema. Now, while I can see this being a great idea, like the last rally, the main issues come up at Toad's Factory. And funny enough, this is the second time I'm bringing up this issue, as Madrosio's Boomerang Rally from the first episode had this same problem. The route from Wario Stadium to Toad's Factory, and the route from the factory to Drybone's Burnout both use the 2 different side entrance ramps. And once again, there's no easy way to cross over from one to the other without traveling exclusively in water or taking an extremely sharp turn, of which a widget may not be possible to insert. The only way I could find to circumvent this issue is from Wario Stadium, you take the reverse route of Switchgear's Super Crown Rally from last episode and make your way to the Elevated Pipe Highway. But even then, you're on this highway well after a theoretical Toad's Factory checkpoint. Also, not to mention that the final stretch before the last checkpoint at Boo Cinema is a pretty long route. And while I personally don't have a problem with that, there might be a collection of people out there that do. And plus, this rally is already shaping up to be on the longer side with some of the connections and routes needed. So while I do see the potential of this rally, there's a few major issues that need to be addressed before I consider it a good fit for the game. For now though, I'll put it in the B tier. Now, just like in the last video, several of you decided to make rallies that have a section-based track as the destination track, or have a hidden track like Shy Guy Bazaar B be the ending track. So let's dive into some of those now, starting off with Dexter Hyatt's Penguin Rally. Starting at Peach Stadium, you travel to Faraway Oasis, Salty Speedway, DK Pass, and Dandelion Depths before hitting the destination track at Mario Circuit in what I only assume is supposed to be Mario Circuit 3. Now, while I did have a problem with Mario Circuit 1 being the ending track in a rally in the last episode, I'll be honest, of the 3 sections of that track, Mario Circuit 3 is the best to end a rally with. Mostly because it's the longest of the 3 tracks, which means there's no real fear of first finishing the rally before 4th crosses the line. Not to mention, your lead up to the rally is overall very solid. The only mild concern is connecting Peach Stadium and Salty Speedway via Faraway Oasis, but this is fixable if you take an improvised route through the water to then hit the main entrance to Salty Speedway instead of glide down from the top like in the normal intermission variant. Overall, this is an excellent idea that can help incorporate Mario Circuit as a destination track, and rightfully belongs in the S tier. Well done! Next up is Anthony2987's concept they call Peach's Passionate Rally, which for simplicity's sake, I'll be dubbing here as the Peach Rally. Starting again at Peach Stadium, you travel to Moo Moo Meadows, Mario Circuit, Starview Peak, and Wario Shipyard before finishing the rally with Peach Beach. While I can only assume the rally would end on lap 1 of Peach Beach, I can't totally be sure. But either way, the most glaring issue revolves around Moo Moo Meadows to Starview Peak via Mario Circuit. Like the barrel and loop rallies from episode 1, the route from Moo Moo Meadows to Mario Circuit, and the route from Mario Circuit to Starview Peak both utilize the Mario Circuit 3 entrance of the track, which means you'd have to find an alternate route to connect these 2 tracks together. Also, the route from Mario Circuit to Wario Shipyard via Starview Peak is one that is extremely long, and one that also technically cuts through 2 possible checkpoint tracks in Dandelion Depths and DK Pass, which means there are other tracks you can use to try and make the experience more flawless between these 2 tracks, especially if you're not using Lap 1 of Peach Beach, and rather using Laps 2 and 3 as the final checkpoint stretch. So while I can see the vision with this rally, I definitely think it needs a bit more workshopping to be considered viable for Knockout Tour. And because of that, I'm going to put it in the B tier for now. Next is Owain587's rally suggestion, which starts at Great Question Block Ruins and travels through Salty Speedway, Peach Stadium, Choco Mountain, and Wario Stadium, before ending at Shy Guy Bazaar's Palace route. Now, Owain did edit their comment saying that they made the most boring rally idea ever because, quote, "it's just roads." Well, first off, if that's your biggest concern, I have some bad news for you about all of Knockout Tour. Second off, I definitely can see some ways this route can stray from being just roads, but let me cover the bigger issue first. That being that there is no pre-existing connection between Salty Speedway and Peach Stadium in the base game. Now, Owain did note this in a separate comment, saying to replace the ladder track with Cheap Falls. Yet, while testing out the base route, I did actually find a viable way to connect these 2 tracks. However, said connection requires traversing a lot of windy roads and maybe some inserted turn widgets. So it's not as clean as an already established connection, but it can work. As for your concern about the route being just roads, well, if your main fear is straightish roads, there's a way to fix that as well. For example, heading to Salty Speedway, you can jump onto the beach to take the Spiny Rally in reverse. I've already mentioned the windy roads to get to Peach Stadium. You can take an improvised dirt road to hit the back of Wario Stadium, and the last section can have you go past Chain Chomp Desert, which I assure you is not a basic road. So while yes, on paper, your rally is just roads to you, in practice, you have so many options for how to take this rally. It's definitely not a perfect rally by any means, but I still feel like this concept deserves at least an A tier in my book. With a little bit of workshopping, I can see this being an actual good rally. Alright, hopefully that sounds good. I'll be sending you the PayPal info so you can send me your dues. Wait, shit, I'm still recording. Now, following up from the Barrel Rally in the last episode is another rally concept of similar nature that I feel like also should be added, that was suggested by Aston OSC. Dubbed the Red Shell Rally, the route begins at Wario Shipyard and travels to DK Pass, Cheap Falls, Peach Stadium, and Crown City before finishing at Wario Stadium. Honestly, like the Barrel Rally, this seems like a no-brainer to connect the 2 Wario tracks in the game, and this rally does a really good job of it. The only part that worries me is Crown City's inclusion in this rally, as you'd have to figure out where at Crown City the checkpoint would be. Plus, the distance between Crown City and Wario Stadium is also pretty long for a final section, similar in kind to the route between Cheap Falls and Faraway Oasis in the Moon Rally. But if you can figure that out, this is a very solid rally idea I can definitely see being added to Knockout Tour. But just because of the uncertainty around Crown City, I'm going to have to knock this rally down to the A tier for now. Next up is Doodling's suggestion for the Drill Rally. Starting in Acorn Heights, you travel to Toad's Factory, Mario Bros. Circuit, Shy Guy Bazaar, and Wario Stadium before finishing the rally at Dry Bones Burnout. Now in your rally description, you listed the route through Toad's Factory as missing the factory entirely and going down the first stretch backwards to exit. However, this is not as possible as you may think it is. The route from Acorn Heights to Toad's Factory hits the northernmost ramp into the factory, so you either need to add a jump off this ramp to head down the main stretch, or go through a similar process the aforementioned Lava Bubble and Poison rallies had to go through. There's also the minor issue of having to go through the Fishbones Hot Springs twice, which you did acknowledge, but since this classifies as a double back issue in a very open space, it may cause some problems. That being said, when you play through the normal connector variants, you'll notice there is a water barrier between what would hypothetically be the 2 ends of the Fishbones Hot Springs sections. So this isn't as big of an issue unless you're looking to not repeat the same section in a rally. There's also the small issue of another potential double back, where you can travel the route from Toad's Factory to Mario Bros. Circuit one way, then travel part of the route when traveling from Shy Guy Bazaar to Wario Stadium, but this is more easy fix as there are multiple entrances to Wario Stadium. So overall, while this rally idea overall isn't terrible, it definitely does have places where it could be better. And because of that, I'm gonna have to knock it down to the B tier. It's still solid, but it needs more work before I can call it a suitable rally. Next up is Hexstrat versus suggestion for the Hammer Rally. Starting at Mario Bros. Circuit, you travel to Whistle Stop Summit, before traveling into the canyon you travel in when going to Koopa Troopa Beach from Whistle Stop Summit. Except you'll glide back onto the road up ahead to hit the south entrance to Crown City. From there, you'll take the Cloud Rally route backwards before diverting to hit Choco Mountain for Checkpoint 3, before traveling to Toad's Factory and going around the factory to hit the 4th checkpoint. From there, you'll head to the tunnel that's used to traverse to the factory from Dandelion Depths in Mario's Circuit, before passing by Mario's Circuit to hit the final track of the rally at Dandelion Depths, where you'll race one lap around the track to complete the rally. Now this is another case like the Wonder Rally from the last episode, where I feel this could be a solid rally route if it weren't for a lot of the added fluff and diversions in place. Firstly, concerning Crown City, I cannot find this tunnel next to the main street where you want the checkpoint to be. I can only assume you mean this road going under the building, but I can't really tell as there's not a lot of tunnels in Crown City. And even then, this entire Crown City section you detailed involves some extremely tight roads that you have to fit at least 16 racers on, which is not that ideal. In addition, the glider from the canyon to hit what I assume is this bridge heading from DK Spaceport to Crown City is a bit odd. While I get it's a way to spice up the route and avoid a large turn going from Whistle Stop to Crown City via the routes to DK Spaceport, you could add a turn widget at this corner to simplify the route, as it's only at most a 90-degree turn. Outside of that though, the rally seems pretty solid, though I do think the checkpoint for Toad's Factory would be better suited being closer to the factory than at this banner that's in between the factory and Mario's Circuit like you mentioned, as it gives off Ice Rally Dandelion Depths checkpoint vibes. Except you're passing by the track in this instance. That being said, I still think this rally is best suited in the B tier. It is still pretty good, but I feel like it just needs some simplification in my opinion. So, alongside having section-based tracks and Shy Guy Bazaar B as destination tracks, some of you decided to suggest ideas that include a different configuration for the destination track, or a unique route that Knockout Rally could allow for. So I thought I would highlight some of those suggestions in this section. Starting us off is Floofleton, who suggests the Feather Rally. Starting at Airship Fortress, you'll travel to Toad's Factory, Choco Mountain, Crown City, and Koopa Troopa Beach before ending off at Dino Dino Jungle, entering the track via the alternate entries used only when traveling from Koopa Troopa Beach. Honestly, this is an excellent rally idea, and I like how it makes use of an otherwise underutilized part of Dino Dino Jungle. My only concern comes with the location you specified for Crown City's checkpoint. Floofleton suggests using the Seaside Start-Finish line as the checkpoint for Crown City. Yet the route for Crown City to Koopa Troopa Beach starts on the pier to the left of said start-finish line. That being said, there are several ways you can solve this problem. From something simple as moving the checkpoint, to something complex like looping the route from Choco Mountain through Crown City to hit the line in reverse or jumping off the highway into the sea. So, in reality, this is a very minuscule issue that is easy to fix. Other than that though, this is a very solid rally that could definitely be added to the game and well deserving of an S tier ranking. Well done. Next up is Pixel Shift's suggestion for the Coin Rally. Starting at Mario Bros. Circuit, you travel to Whistle Stop Summit, DK Spaceport, Koopa Troopa Beach, and Peach Stadium, before finishing the rally on Crown City Sea, which takes you down the seaside and beach route. While I can see this rally being very strong in Knockout Tour, my only concern comes with the checkpoint at DK Spaceport. For obvious reasons, the checkpoint for this track cannot be on the actual track without major modifications, and I'd really rather it not be where it is for the Spiny Rally, only because that makes another rally with a one-lap section in Knockout Tour. Other than not knowing that, the rest of the rally route is extremely solid, but because of the general unknown factor with where the DK Spaceport checkpoint location is, I sadly have to knock the rally down to the A tier. If I knew where that checkpoint was, I'd be able to comfortably say this rally was S tier or not, but in its current state, I just can't do that. Sorry. And to wrap up this section is Gamerlock's 5110 suggestion for the Boo Mushroom Rally. Starting at Wario Shipyard, you travel to Dandelion Depths and Boo's Cinema. But instead of hitting the actual cinema, you're lured into a trap and take the Ghost Valley Boardwalk tributes before then traveling to Acorn Heights and Dry Bones Burnout. Finally, you'll then go back to Boo's Cinema and end the rally on the track proper. Now, I'll be honest, I don't hate this idea with the Ghost Valley trap to fake a route into Boo's Cinema. However, the biggest issues I could find with the rally all relate to the tracks following said Ghost Valley tributes. Firstly, you have to consider how you'll be linking up Acorn Heights to Ghost Valley without creating a double back when traveling to Boo's Cinema from Dry Bones Burnout. The easiest way would probably be to go to the highway and take the route from Mario Circuit to Acorn Heights like in the Golden Rally, but that's still something to figure out. This also means that when it comes to the Ghost Valley portion, you probably won't be able to include Ghost Valley 2, as the route from Dry Bones Burnout to Boo's Cinema uses most of that pre-existing route already, and there's no real alternative without going into Boo's Cinema backwards. Even then, traveling from Acorn Heights to Boo's Cinema via Dry Bones Burnout also results in a double-back issue, as both routes use the main entrance of Dry Bones Burnout to the right of the start-finish line. So that's another case of double-back you'd have to resolve. And from what I could find, the only way to resolve such an issue is to once again use the highway, which is not ideal. Plus, you gotta consider where the checkpoint is for the Ghost Valley part, which is easier than the other issues I mentioned, but it's still worth bringing up. So while I do appreciate the attempt to try and spice up a rally of this concept, I sadly have to put this rally in the C tier. If you could somehow find a way to fix all of these double back issues I highlighted without just committing to American infrastructure and using the highways to connect the tracks, then I can definitely put it higher. But for now, this is where I feel like it's best fitted. Alright, back to normal rally ideas. Starting with I-Ada Bench's Bomb Rally. Starting at Mario Circuit, you travel to Toad's Factory, Choco Mountain, Shy Guy Bazaar, and Airship Fortress before finishing the rally at Wario's Stadium. Honestly, while it may be cut and dry, this is by far the simplest rally in terms of connecting all the tracks together. If you use the standard intermission routes for every connection, you'll notice everything lines up almost perfectly together. And if they aren't perfect, there's an easy way to make them perfect. So really, I have no notes. This is a very solid idea that definitely could work in the game, and well deserves an S tier ranking. Well done, I-Ada Bench. Also, that sounds painful. Next up is Infernus' suggestion for the Feather Rally, of which I'm renaming here to the Bubble Rally. Starting at Koopa Troopa Beach, you travel to Peach Stadium, Toad's Factory, Acorn Heights, and Boo's Cinema, before finishing the rally at Dandelion Depths. Now on paper, this rally seems solid, but for the third time in this video, the issue comes up at Toad's Factory. However, unlike the previous rallies, this is one you actually fixed in your rally path description, as you have the route go through Big Donut to hit the Fishbones Hot Springs and head to Acorn Heights. Though that being said, you did emphasize that the checkpoint for Acorn Heights is located before the actual track at this red banner, which is something I have a slight problem with, as it gives off Dandelion Depths Ice Rally and DK Pass Spiny Rally vibes. I get why you did it, as it reduces the amount of distance of the route from Toad's Factory to Acorn Heights, but I do still feel like there are better ways to handle this route's checkpoint placement. On top of this, there's also the fact that 2 times you come in very close contact with another track without making said track the checkpoint. From Peach Stadium to Toad's Factory, your comment indicated traveling on this village road to pass by the main entrance to Moo Moo Meadows, while traveling from Factory to Acorn Heights as you go past the main entrance of Dry Bones Burnout. These aren't terrible per se, but like Anthony2987's rally, at least one of these tracks could theoretically be made a checkpoint in order to reduce the total amount of distance you're traveling to connect all of these tracks. Either that, or you could find an alternate route to connect the tracks together without getting so close to another track not included in this rally, especially with Toad's Factory to Acorn Heights, which can use this riverway. So while the rally path in question is overall solid, I think because of these 2 issues I have with it, I sadly have to knock the rally down overall to the A tier. Definitely still a very good rally, but could be a little bit better if it was implemented in the game. Next up is Nathman's23's rally suggestion I'll be dubbing here as the Frog Suit Rally. Starting from Salty Speedway, you'll travel to DK Pass, Dandelion Depths, Acorn Heights, and Dry Bones Burnout, before finishing the rally at Bowser's Castle. Now this is arguably one of the better rally ideas I've seen, but the only mild concern I have comes with DK Pass to Acorn Heights via Dandelion Depths. While not a direct double back, you are traveling past the ramp you'd normally take to hit the next track, as the route from DK Pass to Dandelion Depths approaches the track from the west, and Dandelion Depths to Acorn Heights takes the Riverway, which involves going down the sharp incline. Again, this could be a nothing burger of a concern, and I'm still going to put this rally in the S tier simply because it works so well, but it's just something I noted when trying out the rally route for myself. So I'm just going to say it. I think some of you are absolutely insane. In the last episode, I showcased Pixel Shift's Loop Rally concept, which is a rally that starts and ends at the same track. Now here I was thinking this was the only time someone would suggest an idea like that. Boy was I wrong. Ed Ovro, while not directly suggesting a loop rally, suggested a rally that starts at Mario's Circuit 2 and travels to Toad's Factory, Choco Mountain, Cheep Cheep Falls, and Dandelion Depths before ending at Mario's Circuit 3. Now I hate to say this, but this is a pretty solid idea for a loop rally, even if not intentional. The only thing to consider is the route from Toad's Factory to Cheep Cheep Falls via Choco Mountain, simply because of the pre-existing connections. Toad's Factory to Choco Mountain enters in through the back of the track to hit the 3 jumps at the end, while Choco Mountain to Cheep Cheep Falls goes under said jumps to pass through Choco Island 1. There is an easy way to fix this by just taking the highway route to hit the route Wario Stadium takes to Choco Mountain in the Acorn Rally, but if you don't want to do that, unless you're traveling half of Choco Mountain in reverse, there's sadly no other logical way to fix the issue. So while a solid idea for a loop rally, I'm gonna knock it down to the A tier just because of his issue. But I think with some clarification, this could definitely be a contender for the S tier. And if that wasn't enough, Translilibud suggested the Fire Snake Rally. Starting at Bowser's Castle, you travel to Airship Fortress, Wario Stadium, Toad's Factory, and Dry Bones Burnout before returning to Bowser's Castle to complete the rally. Now the biggest issue with this rally, say it with me now,
It's the Siren at Toad's Factory!
Just like the Poison Rally, there's no easy way to get from one ramp to the other, blah blah blah. I've said the same spiel so many times this episode that I think you get the point. No offense. Also, Translilibud mentions the concerns of where the checkpoints for Airship Fortress and Toad's Factory could be located for this rally. While Toad's Factory's checkpoint depends on, Airship Fortress is a bigger concern. The checkpoint could either be at the main start-finish line, initiating an almost full run-through to the track to get to Wario Stadium, or before the line so you can turn into the tower to skip going through almost the entire track. But that would require somehow avoiding the second glider into the track to take the turn. There's also minor concerns with a double back at Bowser's Castle, how the routing for Airship Fortress to Toad's Factory via Wario Stadium will work without causing another double back, and so many other considerations with how this rally operates, that I sadly have to knock it down to the C tier. I don't hate the idea, but there's too many problems here that need to be addressed before I can call it a suitable loop rally for Knockout Tour. And what the heck, let's throw in one more for good measure. Voltatrix suggests the Figure 8 Rally. Starting from Crown City's Center City start-finish line, you'll travel to Peach Stadium, Koopa Troopa Beach, Dino Jungle, and Faraway Oasis before crossing back over the Crown Bridge to finish the rally at Crown City B. So this one is interesting, because I can't tell what versions of Crown City you're referring to here. As in my definition, Crown City A is the high-rise setup, while Crown City B is the alleyways. Either way, the biggest issue with this rally is one that is more easily solved, and it has to do with where you start the race. If you decide to make it so you start at the Center City start-finish line, i.e. the line for Crown City A, you'll have to loop around the route for lap 3 of Crown City to pass by the Seaside start-finish line to hit Peach Stadium, thus avoiding any major doublebacks. You'd also have to install the red arrows from Peach Beach to guide racers in the correct direction when navigating through Crown City. But again, that's a pretty easy fix. Plus, with this, the connector tracks are also well laid out. Assuming, of course, Faraway Oasis doesn't go through the main start-finish line, as there's no way to connect the route to Crown City without doing another double back. So overall, this rally idea is probably the best concept for a loop rally here, but still at best belongs in A tier, just because of the uncertainty around Crown City. So in the original video, alongside allowing you to comment your own rally suggestions, I also gave you the choice to only give me the starting and ending tracks, and have me decide the checkpoint locations for your rally. So I decided to go over a handful of those rallies here. Now it is worth noting, I will not be ranking these rallies on the tier list, but you can assume that since I technically made these rallies minus the starting and ending points, that every rally here belongs in the S tier with absolutely no bias whatsoever. Anyways, first is Plugly Femsum, who suggested the POW rally, with a start point at Mario Circuit and an end point at Moo Moo Meadows. To be honest, this already is somewhat of a challenge since these two tracks are so close to each other, but I think I figured it out. I put the checkpoint tracks at Acorn Heights, Dry Bones Burnout, Warrior Stadium, and Choco Mountain, which yes, is just a copy of the first 4 tracks of my Shine rally from the original video, but dang it, I really wanted to include Acorn Heights as a checkpoint, as you can drive halfway through the track if you approach it from Boost Cinema, Dandelion Depths, or Mario Circuit on the way to Dry Bones Burnout or Toad's Factory. Lazy? Yes. Do I care? No. Moving on. Next up is Technothoms rally I'll be dubbing as the Boomerang rally, with a start point at Crown City and an end point at Cheap Cheap Falls. Again, this is another idea that took some workshopping, but I think I put something together that seems like it could be fun. From Crown City, you travel to Faraway Oasis, Dino Dino Jungle, Koopa Troopa Beach, and Peach Stadium before heading to Cheap Cheap Falls. In a way, this configuration does fall in a very similar feel to Voltatrix's Figure 8 rally, but I think the idea here is solid. The only thing to consider is where the Faraway Oasis checkpoint will be located, which my thought is to put it at the same place as the checkpoint for the Cloud rally before traveling to Faraway Oasis, but turning properly, entering the track to head to Dino Dino Jungle. There are probably other ways you can approach this part of the rally, but I think starting the rally by traveling over the Crown Bridge, then going under it toward the end of a rally, is a nice touch. And finally comes a suggestion from Lico N64, who suggested a rally for me to fill in that starts with Bowser's Castle and ends with Rainbow Road, adding on to the comment with, "Bet you can't." Alright, Bowser's Castle to Mario Circuit to Moo Moo Meadows to Peach Stadium to Rainbow Road Section 2, and finally Rainbow Road Section 4. Pay up. Okay, but in reality, this isn't too hard of an idea to come up with more unique paths. But the only thing you have to ensure is that the route into Peach Stadium goes through the main entrance to the track to hit the Stargate to Rainbow Road, which is the only known way to get to Rainbow Road in the current game. Speaking of Rainbow Road, though, I still have quite a lot of submissions of rallies that include Rainbow Road that I have to get through. So let's dive into some of those now. Starting off with Squidquid 419's rally idea, I'll be dubbing the Green Star Rally. The rally starts at the tail end of Rainbow Road, which you then glide down from to head to the first checkpoint at Koopa Troopa Beach. From there, you'll head to DK Spaceport, Crown City, and Desert Hills. Then from Desert Hills, you'll go through the river to head to Whistle Stop Summit, and head up the mountain path exclusive to Free Roam and some P-Switch missions. The checkpoint will be before a cave on this stretch, and you'll do a full loop around said section before finishing the rally with a glider out of the funnel at the mountain's peak. Now, while this rally has some interesting parts to it, there's a couple of things that need to be addressed. I've already discussed in the last episode how there's currently no way to access any other track from Rainbow Road, so while I'll save the commentary, I will say instead that it seems weird to start this rally midway through Rainbow Road. I feel like cutting out part of Rainbow Road kind of ruins the entire point of a track in Mario Kart World. So while I understand why you did it, I think it's definitely a weird choice. Secondly, Koopa Troopa Beach to DK Spaceport is already used in the Cherry Rally, and is already home to the worst connection between 2 tracks in all of Knockout Tour, which is also going to knock off points. Now, since writing this script for the video, they did update the route in Intermission track variants, but not in Knockout Tour. So you could use the new variation between these 2 tracks, but that's not really a huge improvement compared to what it already is, as it still is just 1 lap. Not to mention that the route from Crown City to the river under Whistle Stop Summit via Desert Hills is one that involves another double back, unless you go on a very complex route by passing next to Mario Bros. Circuit. And even then, you wouldn't be able to even hit Desert Hills this way unless you went even farther. And then there's the ending portion at this unique Whistle Stop Summit route, which if you travel on the river like your route mentioned, you're going upstream to access, which is something that is not as well received among the player base. All of this combined with the problem that this mountain route is not even accessible from this river without an added jump or a pipe, which no course in the entire game uses. That said mountain route is very tight, and the fact the loop that the lap would have is also not ideal, and the fact that the gliders through the funnel would require a 180-degree turn in the current layout. Yeah, I'm sorry my friend, but there's a lot of issues with this rally. I do see some potential here for a rally that could be entertaining, but there's too many problems I can find to really keep track. And because of that, I sadly am going to have to put this rally in the D tier. Not as bad as another rally idea I refuse to mention because I can tell there was an attempt to make something cool, but it just needs more workshopping. I'm sorry. Next up is Andre Giata's suggestion for the Rainbow Rally. Starting at Whistle Stop Summit, you travel to Crown City before taking an improvised glider off of the Crown Bridge to hit all 4 sections of Rainbow Road, each acting as a checkpoint. Now Andre does say that any track close to Crown City could be the starting track to this rally. However, the track shouldn't bring you close to the bridge or to the seaside start-finish line to avoid having a short second section. Now I'll be honest, besides the improvised entrance to Rainbow Road that doesn't exist, this is a very solid idea for a rally. Even then, we already knew the Crown Bridge gets turned into the Rainbow Road Stargate, so having the rally go up to Rainbow Road via the Crown Bridge can make some sense. The only thing I think needs improving, and this is purely cosmetic, is the starting track choice. Whistle Stop Summit seems like an odd choice to start with in my opinion, especially with the alternative option of having the rally start at DK Spaceport, where the rocket we see in Section 3 of Rainbow Road originates from. But really, this is just a small nitpick, and you already addressed such an idea in your comment. So that being said, I think this rally easily deserves an S tier ranking. Well done! Following that, we have 424 Jake's suggestion for the final Gauntlet Rally, which I'm just going to rename to the Crown Rally since it makes sense. Starting from gliding down from Rainbow Road, you travel to Peach Stadium, Choco Mountain, Toad's Factory, and Bowser's Castle, or in this case Big Donut, before ending the rally at Dry Bones Burnout. Now while this rally does have some potential, there are some noticeable things to address here. The first is similar in kind to Squid Kid's Green Star Rally, and that having a rally start with Rainbow Road is a very odd choice. And while this rally does a better job of handling that by just making you head to Peach Stadium instead of traveling on the 4th section of Rainbow Road, that also does make the first section of the rally another one-lap section, similar in kind to the Cherry Rally route from Koopa Beach to DK Spaceport. Secondly, your having to get to the checkpoint at Peach Stadium is one that is kinda difficult to pull off. A 90-degree turn at the start is fine if you can fit a widget, but then a 180-degree hairpin to go under the track you just traveled on is not the most ideal, especially considering that the route you're taking at this point is eerily similar to doing Paperclip Stadium in reverse. Not to mention that there is not a single rally in the entire game that uses the Paperclip Stadium starting line as a checkpoint. This includes the 2 rallies that go through the side entrances to Peach Stadium. So yet again, this is another awkward choice to have this be a checkpoint in the first place. Outside of those 2 issues, there aren't a huge hump of problems, minus maybe the way you're trying to incorporate Bowser's Castle as a checkpoint by setting the checkpoint at Big Donuts, then taking an unused metal road to Dry Bones Burnout. But because of this kind of weird start to the rally, I'm gonna have to put it in the B tier. It's definitely not the worst, but I do think it needs some quick fixes to be considered a good rally for the game. And the last rally I'll be covering in this episode comes from Maxon Tube Gaming. Dubbed the Starbit Rally, the route fittingly begins at Starview Peak, before traveling to Sky High Sundae, Wario Shipyard, Salty Speedway, and Peach Stadium, before then hitting Rainbow Road and having Section 3 be the checkpoint. Now, let me start off this review by saying, thank you! Of all the rally submissions, this is one of the only ones that properly has Peach Stadium as a checkpoint, but not Rainbow Road Section 1, which avoids the one-lap section problem I've mentioned in the last episode. I will also say I think it's a fun idea to have 8 racers for the first half of Rainbow Road and 4 racers for the second half, as it gives plenty of time for everyone to fight to be in that final 4 sets entering the Space Station Glider. The only problem I could find with this rally, however, is one that I've already covered in this episode. That being the Toad's Factory ramps on the— Wait a second, that's not right. Toad's Factory isn't in this rally. That being the lack of a pre-existing connection between Salty Speedway and Peach Stadium. Worse, compared to Owain's Metal Pipe Rally, it's a little harder to connect these tracks together, as from Wario Stadium, you typically enter into Salty Speedway from the back. And plus, you ideally want to hit the front entrance to Peach Stadium. There's definitely a way to fix this issue by using the windy paths and stringing them together somehow to make a coherent connection. But because of the uncertainty around such a connection, I sadly have to bump this rally down to the A tier. It's so close to perfection, but sadly just misses the mark a little bit because of this one connection.
And thus wraps up another edition of the viewer-submitted rallies. Were you one of the fortunate ones to have their rally featured? Did it rank as well as you thought it would? Let me know your takes on my takes down below. Before I go, I want to once again thank everyone who submitted their rally ideas in the comments of the past 2 videos. And of course, if any of you want to add to the list of submitted custom rallies, make sure you comment them down below. I do ask, however, that you make sure you send in the proper amount of tracks in your comment. That being 1 starting track, 1 ending track, and exactly 4 checkpoint tracks, as some of you have been sending in more or less than 6 total tracks for your rallies, which as of right now is not currently possible. I also ask that if you already submitted your ideas, that you don't resubmit them, just so I can keep things neat, and that each commenter submit a maximum of 2 rallies. Anyone who submits more than 2 rallies will not have more than 2 of their rallies featured. And it'll be my choice on what I want to feature or not. But that is going to do it for this video. I hope you all enjoyed. My name has been Bowsy, and until we meet again, I hope you have yourselves a good one.